7. I feel the desire to play and I'm trying to drop it.
Hello and welcome to Facebook Live. It's date night with Martina and Rod. It's very exciting to have Rod here for date night tonight. And this is actually part 3 of the topic of men leading in relationships. So I invited Rod to be here tonight so that you can actually hear this directly from a man's perspective. We've had some amazing conversations in parts 1 and 2. So if you haven't seen those, go and check them out. I've uploaded them on YouTube. They're also on my Facebook wall. You can scroll down and find those. So your questions are welcome. Any questions that you have, please do drop your questions into the chat box. Let us know how you're feeling, what's going on for you. How is it that we can support you to make a difference in your relationships? Both of us are passionate about empowering men and women to be able to live life and intimacy and relationship from a place that's passionate and inspiring and full of love and presence and depth and connection. So yeah, we're here to serve and support you, our community, and you can help us with that by asking us beautiful questions that will make a difference for you. As most of you know, I'm Martina, and I started Tantric Blossoming around 15 years ago now, and over the last 15 years I've been leading sessions, workshops, retreats and training to support people to experience the quality of life, love, intimacy and relationship that they really desire. I've been with Rod now for almost 4 years. We're just coming up to an anniversary soon. And I met Rod when he first came along to an event that I used to run called Tantric Nights. And he walked in the door and I went, he looks a little bit interesting and yummy. And he came to a few more events, and at some point he asked me out, which was pretty awesome. But yeah, I'll hand over to Rod so he can take a moment to introduce himself. If you see me in the chat box, I'm going to be monitoring comments and questions as they come in. Rod's going to mostly be responding to your questions throughout the night. And yeah, I'll be monitoring the chat and sharing anything out loud that needs to be shared. So we also have a kitten here who's now playing with a piece of paper. But yeah, over to Rod.
I don't think I need to say anything after that. Yeah, that was beautiful. My name's Rod, and yeah, I'm passionate about love, intimacy, relationships, growth. I personally work best if I have something to respond to. So questions are great for me around this, and the more specific or personal, the better. Like if you are going to have the courage and vulnerability to ask a question, you may as well get the answer that's as specific for you as it can be and be of the most service. I'm just going to flag one thing quickly for people that don't know me. I have a very mild acquired brain injury, so I will often forget what I'm saying mid-sentence and forget what I'm doing. And I've got great backup here, so yeah, I just wanted to flag that and let people know. Sometimes I'll stutter or stammer, so yeah. But other than that, yeah, I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we've got a great group of people joining us. Hi, Gail. Hi, Peter. Hi, Helen, Andy, Danny, Carlo, Carl, Seka, Natalie. Frances was apparently at one of my first workshops. And now
awesome.
She's joining us tonight, so around 15 years ago. Lovely to have you here, Frances. And hi, Nina, who is joining from Europe. So yeah, feel free to keep dropping your comments into the chat box. one thing I wanted to check is let us know if you can hear us okay, because there's two of us. I don't have a microphone plugged in tonight, but given that you're all commenting, I'm assuming you can hear us fine.
And Peter, it's the same room, different spot, but well spotted.
Yes. So how tonight will work is that in a moment, Rod's going to lead us in a short meditation just to drop in and connect with your breath and your body, and so that we have a shared container of energy through the meditation that Rod leads us in. And then after the meditation, I've got a few questions to ask Rod about men leading in relationships and asking him to share from his experiences. And Rod will respond to those questions. And hopefully by then we'll have warmed you up sufficiently that you'll be sending in your really excellent questions for Rod to answer as well. Okay. It looks like you're hearing perfectly. Awesome. So over
Thank you.
to Rod now for the meditation.
Is there a time frame you want for this? Like 30 minutes?
5.
5. 5 minutes. All right, I've got my timer here, so I'm ready. So I just invite people to find a comfortable position, preferably seated, spine straight if you can. If you're happy laying down, you can do that. But just bring yourself into a comfortable position. I invite you just to close your eyes and just bring your attention to your breath. Just breathing in gently through the nose, down into the belly. Then relax as you breathe out through the mouth. And just gently bring your attention to the top of your head. And just relaxing the scalp. We'll move down through the body, so we'll move to the forehead. Relax your forehead. Relax your eyebrows. Relax your cheeks, your lips and your jaw. Just give the jaw a little wiggle side to side. It's common to get tension stored in the jaw. Relax the back of your head, the back of your neck, your throat. Relax the shoulders, the upper back, and relax your chest. And just while your attention's on your chest, what's one area, one point of tension in the chest that you could relax so that your chest, your heart was a little more open than it was before? Finding that point, just breathing into it. Then as you exhale, just letting go of any tension. Just making sure those shoulders are down and back. And just notice, is there any vulnerability present in exposing and opening your chest and heart? Relax your solar plexus, your middle back. Relax the belly and the lower back. Relax the hips, the pelvic bowl, the perineum. Relax the genitals, the thighs, both the upper and the back of the thighs. Relax your knees, your shins, and your calves. Relax your ankles, Relax the top of your feet, the top of your toes, the heel, the bottom of the feet, and the bottom of the toes. And just allow your awareness to move through the body, just scanning for any points of tension, anything that I may have missed. And just for the next 60 seconds, moving your attention through the body and just breathing into any tension in any of the organs, the muscles, the tissues, the ligaments, breathing into it, and then relaxing on the exhale. And bringing your attention back to the center of your chest. And feel the love that exists in this space in your body. Allowing it to swell and build. Imagine the person that you love and adore the most in this world, the love that you have for this person. And when you're connected to that feeling, begin offering that love to yourself, offering it to your body. And how deeply can you allow that love in? Notice if there's any resistance to receiving love. And if so, how deeply can you love that resistance? Bringing your attention back to being on this call. And on your next exhale, slowly and gently opening your eyes.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome, sweet.
And thank you from everybody else as well. I'm sure it's a beautiful way for people to drop in and get really present to what we're about to share. So my first question for you is, so clear before, hang on a second, I've got to go check my notes.
Meditation has that ability to just wipe whatever was going on. It's part of the beauty.
Yeah. So might look down to my phone for my questions from time to time. The first question is, what benefits do you experience from leading in our relationship? And to give you some context, or to give others context for the question, I know that men can often experience leading in a relationship as a weight or quite a responsibility. And so I think it would be good for the men to hear, what are the benefits that you experience from leading in our relationship?
That. Yeah. The benefits, like, for me specifically, like in our relationship, there's an opening that takes place for Martina And you could see it just then in her face. There was a real sense of glowing and smiling and a radiance that was present. And so that radiance that's present is love, like moving through her body. And as that love moves, like through a woman's body, she doesn't just want to hold on to that. There needs to be a place for it to go. And so, what happens, one of the benefits for leading in the relationship is that love gets showered in my direction. And for me, it's one of the most beautiful things that I can receive. I feel nourished by it, vitalized by it. I feel energized by that love and by Martina's offering in our relationship. And for me, it increases the value of having a relationship. Like, I'll quite often hear men speak to the fact that they see no value for them in a relationship. And for me, for a long time, was very closed down in my heart. My capacity to receive a woman's love was really limited, and I remember specific comments about it from partners in the past. And what I noticed was that I didn't have the ability to receive that love. So as that capacity grew, and I trained, like literally physically trained my body to be able to receive more deeply, then the benefits for leading in the relationship became exponential, because I became a better version of myself as a man. I felt more love in my body, more love for my partner, and it becomes like a circle or a cycle. So the value and the benefit of leading in a relationship is experiencing and being showered by that love and that radiance.
Beautiful, beautiful description. And the next question is, how did you cultivate the capacity to lead in relationship and to be able to trust yourself to lead in relationship?
Okay, good question. There's kind of two parts to that. And I've forgotten the question. What was the first? Just one at a time. The first bit.
How did you cultivate the capacity to lead?
Okay, so to cultivate the capacity, I had to be willing to make mistakes and willing to fall on my face. Like, there was a tendency for me to wait for the right decision, wait, for the right moment, like wait. And all I did was cultivate my capacity to wait. What I really needed to do is be willing to fail, and fail regularly. And I hate it. It hurts. It sucks. There's no good part about that. But the beauty of it is that, and I guess this will answer the second part of the question that I can't remember, but it's alongside our capacity to be willing to make mistakes, we have to be able to reorientate and learn how to navigate through a woman's feedback. So if I did step into something and make a mistake, being very quickly able to pick myself up, dust myself off, and go right and create a change of direction. And so it's being willing to do that and being willing to learn. Like, it's not easy to learn how to lead or to learn how to step into that, but the way to do it is to, one, be willing to make mistakes. Two, I think, is pay attention. Pay very, very close attention to not just what your partner likes, but what actually makes her smile, what lights her up. Sometimes what lights her up may not be what she wants or what she thinks she wants. So there has to be a capacity to basically gather information. And so that information is, you're looking for, like, if Martina smiles, I'm on the right track. And it's learning to, like, I think one of the important things about leadership in, like, the kind of relationship that Martina and I want to create, which is more along the lines of sacred intimacy, my hands are going backwards, is that whatever decisions I make, it always needs to be win-win, and it needs to magnify love. Whatever decisions I make needs to magnify love in the relationship. That's the measure, that's the yardstick. It's not, am I making decisions to please me? Am I making decisions to please Martina? And it's not necessarily about pleasing. It's about what magnifies love in another person's body. So they're experiencing more love by being in an intimacy, being in a relationship with you as a man. And so that's probably the most important part to this kind of relationship dynamic or intimacy, is to be constantly looking what amplifies love in her body, in my body, in our relationship. So there's no sense of sacrifice. If a man's idea of leadership is to make his woman happy, wow, that's a rabbit hole. It's hard to come back from that one. And what I mean by that is that what makes her happy one day won't make her happy the next day. And that's beautiful. That's awesome as far as I'm concerned. I want that. And so but what magnifies love, there's more consistency in that, more stability in that. And so that's the avenue. If I pursue just making her happy, particularly at my expense, I'm going to end up one of those miserable sacks of a man in a relationship who just hates life, hates his woman, hates his relationship, hates his job, and everything else that's happening in his life. And it's a really destructive path, and it's easy to assume that that's what leadership looks like, make someone happy, but that's not it. Like it's a step towards, but there's more steps beyond that that need to be taken if you really truly want to be nourished by the relationship as a man, and for there to be value in the relationship as a man. Like there's so much that a woman brings to a man in a relationship that goes unseen. This is culturally, we're not aware, but there's so many beautiful qualities that women bring. Like without Martina, I would not be as happy as I am as a man. I would not be as happy in my intimacy, in my relationship. I would not like be as clear about like who I am in the world and what I want from the world and where I want to go, like in sense of like purpose. She supports that. So there's like I feel freer and a better version of myself in this relationship than I do when I'm single. And I quite often hear people when they separate, they have to go back and find who they are. They've sacrificed all the way along. And so this is not about sacrifice. Leadership in a relationship amplifies the value of the relationship for both partners.
Awesome. Awesome. Beautiful response.
I use a lot of words.
There's something in what you said that I'd love to ask you to speak a little bit more about. So that is the difference between what a woman thinks she wants and what makes her smile. Are you willing to go there?
Minefield. I'm going to blow myself up here. So just ask me one more time so I'm really clear on it, please.
So the difference between what a woman thinks she wants and what makes her smile.
Okay. What's the difference between the two?
Or why should a man look for what makes her smile rather than what she might think she wants?
You think you're funny, don't you? I'm going to tread really carefully here.
You can use something that's happened in our relationship as an example. I'm like...
You're assuming I remember one. The danger in knowing what we really want, and what our heart wants, it's very tricky. You have to have impeccable clarity, awareness, self-awareness and direction. And say for a man being a purpose-driven being, they're the values that I align to. Martina being a love-driven being, what she wants, what makes her happy, changes constantly. It changes every day. If I tried to use that as a reference point for leading in a relationship, I would lose my mind. And many men do. And it's because the impulse to lead and to the desire to please a woman is very, very natural. And if we try and please, there's so much of what people think make them happy is cultural. It's conditioned, it's family, there's so much, it's historic, there's so much to it. And if we try and go down that road, we'll inevitably fail, almost always. Whereas what opens her heart, what magnifies love in her body, if she knew what that was, she would already be doing that. It would already be there. So as a man, my role in the relationship is to feel her. And what I mean by that, like it's not esoteric and wooey and hippie and I'm not talking about that kind, but I don't know about the men out there, but if you've ever walked in the door, you've come home from work, you've had whatever day, like it wasn't awesome. You walk in the door, you haven't even seen your woman, and you go, oh shit, something's not right. Like, I'm gonna cop it. That feeling, that's our capacity. We can exercise that muscle to feel into a woman, and it's that part of us as men that we learn to cultivate, and we use that. We feel into her, what's opening her heart, what lights her up, what's making her smile, what makes her heart and her love more available in this moment. And it's that. And if she's longing and yearning for access to that part of herself. And it's not something a woman can find on her own as deeply as she can with a man to help guide her to that. It's very similar to like our eyeballs. We'll never see our eyeballs. We can see a reflection of it in the mirror or on Facebook, but we can never truly see it. And part of the beauty of standing outside our partner, we can see them. We can see the little subtle things, like the corner of their mouth lift, their posture change, like the movement in her body, or if she's a bit more pep in her step. So we can use those cues to navigate her heart, to support the opening of that. And that's what guides the leadership.
Mm.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah,
because the
beautiful.
other one can shift and change,
Yeah.
and you may give her what she wants, what she says that she wants, and then she's like, yeah, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to find that herself. What she really needs is for you to take the lead on that.
Yeah.
It's too confusing to do on our own.
And even to give you an example of something for me with a regular yoga practice, which is something that I've wanted to cultivate for a long time. And I had this idea in my head that I should do yoga more often, which kind of crippled me and paralyzed me from moving forward with it. But one day Rod reflected to me that when I spoke about yoga, I smiled. And that one thing, like him going, oh, you smile, like something lights up in you when you speak about yoga, that one reflection was enough for me to drop my shoulds and to be like, oh, okay, there really is something in this for me. So then it was easier to find the discipline to move back towards yoga without my shoulds, because Rod had noticed my smile. He'd noticed an uplift in my energy around yoga. So having that reflected back to me made it a much more natural and easy step to move towards.
And it's that reflecting back, that feedback that a man can give supports a woman to open.
Yeah.
And yeah, the idea around leadership, it's not leading her to what she wants or leading her to what I want. It's leading her to what opens her heart. Yeah.
Thank you. Beautiful. So we have an excellent question here from Andy. Why, Rod, do you think so many men resist leading in relationships? They may well lead stuff outside, but seem frightened, powerless, unmotivated in it. So I think the frightened and powerless and unmotivated is about leading in the relationship, even though they're leading in other areas. And then Andy's also said, I think this really frustrates women heaps. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, without a doubt. They long and ache for that quality of leadership. I think the reason so many men resist leading in relationships is because they've been belted over the head so many times when they've failed. And there's two parts to this leadership conversation. Like, it's really important to be with a woman who's going to support you to be a better leader and to support you to lead in the relationship. And so what that means is that there needs to be a little bit or a lot, or at least a willingness to forgive. And that's part of the beauty, like, of a very feminine being, is they can shift from one to the other so fast and so quickly. So the forgiveness can come really quickly, but there needs to be space for a man to make those mistakes without being, well, degraded or berated, shamed, belittled, put down. It's culturally very acceptable to, like, man bash. It's like okay, and even like I see it a lot in comedy and sitcoms. It's just really sad. Um, so there needs to be a willingness from both partners. It's like, okay, I really do want to lead in our relationship, babe, but I'm terrified, and I'd love your help and support to get me there. And I think, the resistance is primarily that making so many mistakes and it hurting so much. Whereas I think when a man is with a willing partner and learns to lead and make mistakes and is not bashed for it, like if you get in those conversations that like 9 years ago you said this and we did and it was terrible, it's just like that's never going to work. Like if for most men they'll freeze if they've been bashed with that historic list of mistakes that he's made. So that is, in my opinion, why a lot of men shy away from that. And in lots of ways, if a relationship is like that, it's quite abusive and it's probably shying away for good reason. So, what needs to happen to shift that pattern and dynamic is that the two people consciously choose to, one chooses to lead and the other chooses to surrender the lead in that moment and to then build on that, strengthen that. And it takes time. It's like working out. Like, you don't go to the gym and go in there, right, I've done my weights. Where's my bodybuilder's body? It doesn't happen. It takes years. So, like, in a relationship, exercising that capacity for leadership, it's not weeks or months. It's like, it's literally changing your life. Like, a man needs like these things, these aren't like these things that we're sharing. It's not like a course or something you can just go and do and it changes. It's orientating your life to it. So those leadership qualities won't just exist with your intimate partner. They'll start to then spill out with children, friends, co-workers, your boss. Like, it spills out everywhere, and it's something we need to constantly be choosing to exercise. It's not something we can just hope comes one day. Like, if I think about it often enough, something will happen. It won't. You can read all the books you want. It needs to be an embodied experience. And what that means is you have to do it. You have to do it to get it to happen, and then keep doing it and have that support from your partner that sort of guides you both into experience. And then eventually, as a man becomes stronger in his capacity to lead, the woman then can relax her being supportive and lean into being more expressive, which is what she needs to do. Like, to feel the fullness of a woman's expression will very quickly let me know that I'm off point or off track, and I'll course correct immediately. And the beauty of that is then boom, she'll open immediately. So it's very, very fast once you get going. Mm. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, that definitely answers that question. For the women listening, can you speak a little bit more to a woman's expression? Because I've spoken about that in past ones. I think it would be good for women to hear that from your perspective as a man. Like, how does it serve you when the feminine expression comes in response to whatever's happening?
Yeah, okay. So essentially, if a woman can't express her emotions freely in the moment, then I'm like a trying to navigate through the bush in the dark with a blindfold on. I'm just going to fall over, bump into shit, hurt myself, hurt her. It's impossible. And what I mean, like, it's really important when we're talking about expression. It's literally expression. It's not, it's, it's really important to be emotionally current. Like I'm brushing over, so some of these are just whole workshops or weekends all of their own. So I'm skipping over things here, which really have quite, deep conversations that should go along with these. But a woman's emotional expressions are being emotionally current, and the expression is like sadness is not. I feel sad when you do that to me. That's an accusation. There's a bashing to it, whereas sadness would be tears or oh, like there's a hurt to that. And so it's showing that, like, if a woman showed that she felt hurt by what a man said, I guarantee you he'll stop in his tracks. Like, if you say, I'm sad because you did that to me, straight away he's going to be on the defensive. There's some part of him that wants to protect himself because he knows he's done something wrong. Whereas if a woman opens her heart and shows him how sad she is in that moment, there might be collapse in her chest and in her body, there might be sounds, there may be tears. He will be absolutely gutted and devastated, I can assure you, and will immediately respond, and you'll have his full impeccable presence. He'll be like, okay, I'm with you. What do you need? Like, well, what can I offer you? I'm sorry. I've screwed this up, and he'll course correct immediately.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Theodos, we're going to come to your question next. I just want to share a couple of the reflections with Rod while he takes a drink. Andy said, really good reflection, Rod, which was on the prior question. Danny said, yes, in capitals.
Hey, Danny.
Andy said, I saw a woman the other night berate her husband in the street for something that seems so critical. Goes to what Rod is saying about criticism when men try to lead.
Yeah.
Kat says, glad I'm not the only one that can change what makes me happy on a regular basis.
Absolutely, you can, and you should.
Right there with you, Kat. Andy says, partnership of equals is the ultimate goal. Absolutely, Andy. So true. And Theodos said, Andy says, Rod's insights here are a gem. Well done, hitting the spot.
Thank you.
Theodos has been joining in regularly and listening to date nights from London. So he says, nice to meet Rod. I love strong women and often find myself over my head and end up giving too much by pleasing. How do I lead strong-willed women without sacrificing myself?
Wow. Come to one of our workshops. So I love strong women as well. So hence Martina. But it depends if you're in a relationship with these women. Like, women are often quite guarded with men, particularly around leadership, and rightly so. Like, there's a history of women being abused by men, so they're going to start off quite guarded. So leading in a relationship or an intimacy, it has to be a relationship or an intimacy first. If you walk straight up to a woman and expect to be guiding and leading her, there's a strong chance you're going to miss the mark. And it's really important that this happens inside the container of a relationship and that your partner's willing. So it's something, as I said before, that both partners have to commit to. I think strong women often have a stronger desire to surrender because they're exercising specific qualities all throughout the day, particularly at work. And what they want to be able to do is outside of that is just let go and have nothing to do with leading or directing the relationship or their partner at all. But at the same time, they have such an incredible capacity to lead in their own right. They don't need you to lead, but they want you to, and they'll choose to allow you to. And so to lead a woman, you don't have to be stronger than her. It's not a wrestling contest. It's very much like cultivating within yourself a really powerful masculine capacity. And in lots of ways, your masculine needs to be stronger than hers, or at least strong enough that she's willing to surrender. And it may just be in specific areas, or not even surrender, just to let go of some of the tension that's required in our bodies to lead and to hold that masculine space within a relationship. But if you don't have those qualities well cultivated within you, she shouldn't trust you. She's right not to trust you. And if you find yourself in relationships with strong women and you're being bullied and manipulated and controlled and led, I guarantee you she doesn't trust you. And the most powerful thing you can do right now is find out what part of you is not trustable and do something with it immediately. And it's really important that as men, our alignment to integrity, to our purpose, to who we are as men, needs to be impeccable and unwavering.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a fair bit. I'm trying to cast a broad net over it for you and give you something to work with. I don't know what your daily practice looks like, but if you currently don't have one, a breathing or meditation practice, I strongly suggest you start there and learn how to deepen that capacity so it rests in your body. And what that means when something's fully embodied is that you can walk up to someone or speak to someone, they know exactly who you are and where you're at because it's conveyed in how you show up. You don't have to say, hey, I'm trustable and a strong man. It doesn't usually land that well. So it needs to be able to be demonstrated through your body, through your breath, and how you choose to live your life. And if that's all in place, then you will attract a strong woman who wants to surrender because she can feel the part of you that she trusts. And that is what she wants to feel. She needs to feel the part of you that she can trust so that she can let go.
Thank you. So there's few people commenting about strong women. Andy says, strong women, what a gift they can be.
Yeah.
Emma and Nina are responding to your comment about how strong women want to be able to let go when they finish work and so on. So they're like, yes. Emma says, I know I can lead. I do it in my business, but I don't want to at home.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Nina says, yeah, exactly. So the women definitely loved your responses there. Carlo has asked you to elaborate on unwavering and impeccable.
Your trustability.
Yeah.
To elaborate on it.
Yeah.
Unwavering and impeccable. Okay, yeah, that could be rigid. It's not rigid. What it means is that if you have a set of values, Carlo, and like how you live your life, if when no one's looking, you do the things that you can get away with, the other things, okay, that's not impeccable. That's not unwavering. It's like, I'm so ridiculously simple. Martina could tell you pretty much what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do at any time because I'm so consistent. Leaning on the side of boring, maybe, but super consistent. But I'm also like I stand for truth, honesty. Like I do not like lying. So like Martina knows that even if I'm at home by myself, I'll still stick to that. And there's certain things that, like around the house that we've agreed to, like the way we live our lives. So when Martina's not here, when she's away doing workshops or something like that, I don't think, oh, wow, cool, I can get away with it now. She's gone. I'm just going to do whatever I want. That's wavering. That's not impeccable. So if I've committed to something, if I've agreed to something, then I do it. Even when I can get away with doing what I'd rather do, maybe what I want to do. And if it's that strong, we should actually probably sit and have a conversation. But what it means is that you are committed to being a trustable man, which means, lying, out. And we all lie. Even me, it's really annoying. One of the places I lie is like around sweet food. The other one is like when we get those forms and you go, have you read the terms and conditions? And I just go, yes. And I'm not going to read them. So I tell her that I lie about those things. And I lie about my age. If you ask me, I say I'm 35. I like to see if I can get away with it. I can't get away with 33.
He's 47, just for the record.
Oh, you outed me.
Because it's not fair when people are like, but Rod's younger than you. And Rod's actually older than me.
So yeah, being impeccable and unwavering doesn't mean being rigid and controlling. It means that whatever you believe is how you should live your life or how other people live your life, you do it no matter what. You stand for something and you stand. Does that answer that question for you, Carlo? Well, you'll pop up somewhere.
Yeah, there's around about Danny says, what the fuck, 47. Yes, he's 47, Danny. 48 soon. Did you believe the 35, Danny? Okay. Yeah, I think, I don't know. Carlos said thumbs up.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So, there was a question here from Emma saying, I loved Martina's example of how to express feeling anger in the last date night. What's your feeling about women expressing anger, Rod? So to give you some context, I gave a little demonstration of like being like, ah! And like dumping my rah on you, or being like,
okay.
ah!
Yeah, showing that you're angry.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between showing someone how you feel and dumping it or projecting it onto another person. And that was a really good example just then. What are my feelings around it? Like originally, I was scared, terrified. Like it hurt that a woman was like angry with me or that her anger was coming in my direction. So there was a lot of fear in my nervous system. Like I didn't know how to process it at the start, but I really wanted to be able to, and felt quite like a failure when I couldn't. And so that was like a real challenge to be able to navigate that. But now, how do I feel about it? A little bit excited and sometimes even a little bit aroused. Like it's quite exciting, but her anger isn't threatening me. It's not being pushed in my direction, and I don't know how to convey that on Facebook, to be honest. But I feel like Martina did a good job just then. But the showing of her anger, the showing of her emotions, it calls me to attention immediately. I'm aware all of a sudden that something's going on, which I wasn't before. And I like to think I'm pretty aware as a man, but there's still plenty that slip past to the keeper, or I might say or do something stupid, unfortunately. And as soon as she shows me how she feels, if it's hurt or angry, or scared, then I know immediately that whatever I just said, I was most likely out of alignment for who I am as a man, because in that moment she doesn't trust me anymore and I've hurt her. She can't trust me to hold her. And so by letting me know, it's exciting, one, to know because I'm learning something new, but two, it feels really quite beautiful and quite clean, because if I say got away with it, which at times has been things I've said and I've forgot, I feel the ouch in that, I'll call myself out. Because if I don't, it's going to fester in there, in her, and at some point it's going to come out bigger. Definitely bigger. Bigger than what it was. Best to catch it at the start when it's little. And so I find it really quite sexy. And are we talking, how intimate are we talking about?
Go for it.
Okay, so even intimacy, say like in the bedroom, like one of the most beautiful things is Martina's so free to express her emotions as they arise there, and it quite often is something that moves a lot of emotion through a woman's body. And I remember the first time anger it came out there, and she was like beating on my chest, and then she's like, "Oh, is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that was good." Yeah, it was very, very sexy. So anger is a beautiful emotion and expression, and it belongs everywhere. So it's just getting used to it is hard. It's scary as a man and really, really vulnerable. Yeah, that sense of having made a mistake or done something, and also receiving it. Like there's a lot of energy behind anger, but it's if you can often find the love in the anger. Like love is present in anger, and it's once it's accessible, like for both people, like and you can feel that in your body and your nervous system. Anger becomes a lot less scary. It belongs more in the relationship, particularly when there's love attached to it. It doesn't have to be, but it really helps to support the nervous system in like leaning into that, learning about it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I know one of my downfalls in like early on in my relationship with Rod, but also in other relationships, was like the part of me where I would feel something, not express it in the moment, but then I would come back later that day or the next day and have an analysis. Now, when you said this, you should have done this and you could have done that, and that kind of, you know, intellectual analysis was kind of like putting bricks on the love and the relationship. Whereas being able to express my feelings in the moment, it's clean, it's clear, it can be addressed. It takes some practice to get used to. Like I often have that nervousness inside of me that's like, I can't show, I can't express, I can't say. But even like just supporting myself through that to be like, it's okay, like let him see how you feel, let him see what's happening in your body. And I've had enough experience to know that when I do that, it actually turns things around, rather than when I go away and fester and come back with my brilliant intellectual analytical summary of the situation, which just pushes him very, very far away.
Yeah. And I just want to share too for the men out there that are hearing this too, like in lots of ways it's not okay to just go and ask your woman and expect her to do this. Like it's torturous for a woman to express her emotions and show her emotions through her body, show how she feels in the moment. And it's incredibly vulnerable. It's heart wrenching and it's really, really hard. And to like women, that's like I mentioned before, where men will need a woman's support in cultivating the capacity to lead. Women need encouragement and support, and a lot of it to dive into showing you their emotions. And it's a very, very beautiful thing to receive as a man. It's not scary. It's not a dump. It's not attacky, or there's no sense of walking away from that feeling bad. There's a sense of walking away from it feeling loved and energized. But to get for a woman to feel safe enough to do that, we're back to the trustability and encouragement and support. Like if I see something in Martina, if I sense there's an emotion that wants to come out or there's something going on, I'll start to ask some questions like, "Hey, babe, how are you feeling right now? What's going on for you? I feel like there might be some tension, like in your chest or in your heart, or is there something going on for you?" And that gives her some permission to lean into some expression. And um, it's important as men, that's part of leading. It's like you see something's hurting your partner, create the space, ask the question so it can come out. So it comes out of her. And what happens is that supports women to become emotionally current, and men. Like we learn to express on the go, so we're not trying to process a historical backlog of emotional experiences that have been stored in our body.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful to hear Rod say that it is challenging. It's incredibly vulnerable, which is where, you know, we as women need to give ourselves lots of permission and let go of judgments that come up, and, you know, being blessed to have Rod's, you know, encouragement, like, what's happening in your body, what's going on there. It's like when Rod asks those kind of questions, it's like, oh, something in me, like, so, oh, okay, I can go there again. I can open up and share. There's space for this. So,
I feel like there's emotions moving now.
Yeah.
You're allowed to cry now. You can be angry too.
There's no tears there now.
Are you sure?
There's relief and space, but no tears.
Okay.
So Carlo says, thanks guys, got to run. Emma says, so helpful, thanks. The showing versus dumping and having a man hold that space is pretty cool, especially at a time when underlying the anger is actually hurt and a whole lot of love. And yes to expressing in the moment, Martina. I'm still learning to express it at 42 brackets 25.
25. Go, Emma.
Thank you both.
Do you reckon I could get into my 20s?
No.
Just checking.
Fido says, Tar, for your reply to my question, an invitation for you both to come and run a workshop here. We would love to come to London. Actually, I haven't checked with Rod. Would you like to go to London?
I'll go anywhere.
Okay, we'd love to come to London. I used to live in London. I haven't been there for ages, but would love to come. Onji says, I love your wisdom, Rod. And
hello, Onji.
Your love, Martina. Helen says, this is a great conversation. Oh, that's right. And Kat says, I was sure you were younger than Martina. You must have been lying when I met you. I think maybe you said 35.
I may have. I usually tell people I'm lying once I've got away with it.
And then Andy says, you're a youthful 47 fella.
Thank you, Andy.
Kat reminds you that it was years ago she met you.
Actually, yeah, it was too.
Yeah, 4 years ago, in fact. Danny said, of course, Rod doesn't lie to me. Ha ha ha, except about his age and how many sweets he ate.
I'm steering clear of the sweets.
So Carl asks, does the man often lead in trying to set a process for communicating through a problem between you? Which I think you just spoke a little bit to now, but maybe you've got more to add to that.
Does the man often lead in trying to set a process for communication through a problem between you? Yes. He does, in terms of that, creating the space for the conversation to happening. Communication through a problem. This is a really interesting area. Like, there's lots of value to having big, long, emotional talks and conversations when it's needed. In my experience, 90% of conflict could be avoided if a man keeps his mouth shut and listens. And so, like, there's so much to this, and I don't want to diminish the value of having those conversations, but there is times where those conversations actually won't serve, and trying to direct a woman to resolve an emotional conflict, in my opinion, is a massive mistake. Men have, or masculine beings have, a strong desire to fix things or bring them to completion, have some sense of it being done. Feminine beings don't have that impulse. They don't have that desire. Things don't need to be finished. Emotions don't need to be fixed. And often a woman's emotions are not a problem to be solved. So it's something that really, it's just love moving through her body. It's coming up against something and it's skewing out as a particular emotion. So as that moves through her body and comes up against trauma, hurt, pain, story, whatever, like any of those things, when it skews out, when that love moves and shifts off in that direction, it's just love being expressed as that particular emotion in the moment. And it doesn't really need to be talked about or fixed. What it really needs is there to be space for her to feel it. Because often after she's felt it, she's like, yeah, I'm done with that now. She'll be over it and she'll be on to the next feeling. And having a conversation about it is often really pointless. But if you can create the space and the relationship for her to explore her emotions as if she was just showing you the clothes that she's wearing or showing you what's happening for her in that moment. Like, one of the things, like for me, is when I'm listening to a woman talk, is to really, really remember that she comes from a place of feeling. And men are very, very quick and to shut down women as being irrational and not logical. And as a man and being a purpose-driven being, there's a sense that things need to go through a certain process and then be made done. She doesn't have that impulse. What's in her is that there's feelings and they come up like flavors to be tasted. And once they're tasted, there's another one that wants to be tasted. And so if we start to allow that space for that process, she gets to explore more flavors of who she is. We get more flavors of a woman in our partner, and it brings a lot of beauty to the relationship. Then after that, if there's something that needs to be talked about, I'd talk about it. But I wouldn't dive straight into talking first, and I wouldn't assume that a woman has a problem because she's emotional. Chances are she doesn't. It's kind of like the weather. Like if it's raining outside, we don't go, right, I'm going to go and fix that rain because I want it to be sunny. Doesn't work. So it's the same with her. It's like if she's crying, put on your raincoat and get out there, get in it, get amongst it. There's beauty in there. So yeah. So definitely, yes, men can lead in that space, but we don't have to lead a woman to a resolution or to a result. What we can do to lead in that situation is to create space to allow her to feel. And I mean literally go into a room and say, baby, show me how you feel. And stand there, breathe as deeply as you can, relax the front of your body and just let her move and sound, like best with no words at all. Just move and sound and connect with those emotions and allow them to move. And then through that process, then go through that process and see where you are at the end of it. And I think you'd be very, very surprised. Keeping our mouth shut is a real gift.
One of the best things Rod can say to me in those moments is there more. As soon as he says to me, is there more, or show me more, it's like then there's more permission for my feelings. Like being somebody who contracted my feelings for a lot of my life, having someone who's like, show me more, tell me more, what else is there? Then it's like, oh, okay, I can have all these feelings, I can express these feelings, there's space for them. So yeah, that's incredibly, incredibly valuable to me when Rod's like, more. And I'm like, oh, he likes this somehow.
Yeah. And for the men out there, like next time your partner's really, really angry, tell him more. So show me more. The befuddled look on her face would be so beautiful. And it breaks the tension of the moment. The fact that there's space for all that anger, it almost like pulls the ground out from underneath it. Then the other feelings that are present begin to arise.
Andy says, men like to fix and manage. I think women are more comfortable with being as it is, even when it can't be fixed or managed. That's true. One of the things for us as women is that we do just want to feel, like, and the feminine part of us that just wants to feel has no discrimination between good or bad feeling. It's just, I want to feel, and I want to feel big. So I want to have big feelings. And so one of my personal practices recently that I've been sharing with some of my clients is to actually allow the expression of our love, our appreciation, and our gratitude to be big. Because when I allow that to be big, then I'm not looking for anger or stress or drama or anxiety or some of those shadowy elements to amplify. Because when my love is big, there's my feminine's like, oh, I can bathe in all this big love and feeling like big appreciation and big openings, and that's beautiful to feel myself rest into that place.
Mm.
Danny asked, can I assume the more you're allowed to express, Martina, then this gives you the safety to express even more? Absolutely, that's very, very true, Danny. You've summed it up perfectly there. Emma says, I have to go, but thanks so much for your time. We'll watch the replay. Peter said, there seems to be a core concept here of building trust and safety for vulnerability, to lead and fail and learn, and to allow emotion and feeling to be seen in the moment without fear of recrimination.
Wow, I might copy and paste that. That's really cool. Well said.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, Peter. Yeah, great insight and very, very well articulated.
Yeah, beautiful summary there, Peter. Thank you. Georgia asks if you've got any brothers.
I do. I have one brother, but he has a partner.
And Baden says, thank you, Rod and Martina. So grateful for the wisdom you both have imparted the past few weeks. Namaste. Beautiful. Thank you. I had one more question. I might give, if anybody out there's got a question you'd love Rod to answer, please pop your question into the chat box. We are going to wind up soon, but just while we see if anybody's got anything else, the question I was going to ask is if you'd like to share, how does it feel to you when I resist your lead? Because I think it'd be useful for the women to hear.
Okay, yeah. When you resist my lead. How does it feel? Like in my body, I feel worthless, powerless, not good enough, like I have no value in the relationship. Like, feels like that's my place, that's what I contribute. So it feels like my contribution to the relationship's not worth anything and that it's unwanted. And I guess in that I feel somewhat unwanted and rejected, just sort of discarded, I guess. Yeah, would be the best way to describe how it feels. Yeah. I think too, like, I don't know if you've touched on it, but when I experience trust in a relationship, like when Martina trusts me, I feel loved through that. I experience love through being trusted. Like when she says, I love you, I'm like, cool. When she says, I trust you, I'm like, oh, shit, okay. And in that trust is an invitation to step up to my highest values, to live, to be the best version of myself that there is. And that invitation, her trust in me, it imparts a huge responsibility on me. It's like a delicate flower. There's something there that I want to protect. This is really, really important to me as a man. And so when I'm not trusted in a relationship, when that lead is unwanted, then there's very quickly, there's no purpose to this relationship for me. There's nothing here for me. It's like being in an empty garage. It's horrible. Gotta have something in there. But my point being that when I'm not trusted, I don't feel loved. So love in my nervous system, in the masculine man's nervous system or a masculine being's nervous system, trust is experienced as love. Whereas if I say to Martina, I trust you, she couldn't care less.
True.
So if I say that I love you, then you can see in her face that resonates. So that's important to her. That's her alignment of value. And so for me, that value in the relationship of being trusted, that's a massive part of how I experience love.
Yeah. Danny says he loves those comments on trust. And I wanted to make a comment around the resist, because resisting Rod's lead is that, like, me putting up a wall. Like, I don't want to hear what he's saying. I'm not interested in his advice. Like, so me resisting is like very clearly and obviously resisting. Whereas if Rod offers me something as a way of leading in our relationship, and I don't like what he's offering, and I go,
I know straight away she didn't like that. Can you pull that face for them?
Okay.
It's pretty clear I'm not on track.
So giving Rod a no through my face and my sound, like that's me responding to Rod's direction.
Yeah,
it's
her
not
showing me how she feels.
Yeah.
That's a really good example of
that's
showing.
that's not resisting. That's like that doesn't feel good, you know.
Yeah, it's not.
It's like it's the bodily expression of it doesn't feel good. So then there's space for Rod to navigate and find where the yes is, or where, you know, the energy is flowing. So resisting is like, nah, your opinion doesn't matter to me, and like pushing him away. Whereas, you know, like sometimes Rod will suggest things and it does feel like a no. So I'll just like, I'll show him my no. So I just wanted to make clear the difference between a no and a resist, because I think that's important, because I know I can do both at times, and I'm a pain in the ass when I'm, you know, like pushing him away. Peter says, if your lead is resisted, how do you respond?
That's a really good question, and you've worded it really well, so I can't give you a really cool answer. I have to give you how I respond. Sometimes not great. I've had tantrums, I've cracked the shits. Sometimes I've responded really lovingly. Like, sometimes it depends on my capacity on the day. Like, I need to acknowledge here, like, I'm not sharing this because I'm an expert and I've achieved greatness. It's just I'm in the mix, failing dismally daily. So just keep that in mind. So the best thing I can do in that moment is love her in her resistance and love that she's resisting. The most beautiful thing I could do is even play with it a little bit and tease her a little bit and just say, oh, okay, so you want to do this all by yourself, do you? You know, like, have a play. And so there's great value in humour when it's used skillfully. And what that means is if she opens like she just did in that moment, she lit up and she smiled and her chest came out and her shoulders went back. So, like, they're all really good signs that, you know, that play is actually working. And I've failed dismally with humour at times too. So it's really going to depend on where you are at the time, and sometimes different responses. Like, I know at times I've actually, like, early in our relationship, like, really cracked the shits and said, what is the point of me being in this relationship with you if you're going to be your own man, which is some of the things Martina referenced before. And just me, like, just being at the limit and really expressing that strongly was the perfect response. It was the perfect medicine, because it was like a shock. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what's happening here. Yeah, okay. And so the moment can change. So it's something that needs to be played with. But if there's already a conversation going about leading, like, it's much easier to be more delicate with it and to play with it. So remember this conversation we had last week, babe, about leading and resisting? Like, where do you think we are right now? And so there's lots of ways you can lovingly play with it. And yeah, there's no right way, there's no perfect way. But the way that animates love in both partners is definitely going to be the best. And yeah, I don't always get that one right.
I love your response. Thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability.
Oh, you're welcome. It hurts and it's scary.
Georgia has a great question here. Do men want to be trusted easily from women, or do they accept that it takes time?
Okay. I can't speak for all men because it's always different. So they accept that it takes time. Trust can take time, but the habits of closure are usually really strong. And the amount of trust offered is not always a reflection of the amount of trustability within a man. The trust conversation's a two-way street. Like there's a lot of really untrustable men out there, like in so many ways in terms of this particular conversation that we're having, and you shouldn't trust them. So it's and it can take time, but what can take a lot longer is exercising the muscle of trust. But the first thing I'd be practicing is having a look. How much time do you spend looking for reasons to not trust a man versus how much time do you consciously spend looking for reasons to trust a man? Because I guarantee you, if you look for reasons to not trust him, you'll find heaps. You'll find heaps in every man because he's going to fail. And so we come back to that original question about leadership and trust, is that there needs to be space for him to totally blow it and then course correct. If he's not going to be trusted because he made one mistake, it's never going to work. He's never going to reach that goal because he's always going to, it's like it's a dance and it's constantly in flux and movement. So when he does something that's untrustable, you're naturally going to not trust him. But what comes first, chicken or the egg? Do you open to him and recognize that he's failed in that moment and make space for him to course correct, or do you just shut down to that altogether for the rest of the relationship? So it's, long term, you want to build a relationship with somebody, there has to be room for them to make their mistakes. And so, but if they're on a constant gradient getting better, then that man's worth trusting. And if you want to know whether a man's trustable or not, show him how you feel and see what he does with your emotional experience. If you go if he makes the suggestion to go to a restaurant and you go, ugh, yeah, I don't want to go there, then if he goes, oh, this is just ridiculous, I don't have to put up with this, and walks out the door, he's not trustable with your emotional experience. If he goes, hey, what's going on for you? I'm curious about this. And he's interested in your emotional experience. He wants to make a different choice. He's looking to support you. Then he's a man worth trusting. And it's a really great way, because if a man writes off your emotional experience immediately, then chances are he's not trustable. He's certainly not trustable with your emotions. And so then you need to assess whether or not you actually even want to be in an intimacy or a relationship with that man. So yes, it can take time, but usually time's not the problem. Both partners are going to have massive issues around this. Men around leading and being trusted and how that impacts their body and their nervous system. And for women, all the times where they've trusted men and been abused and hurt. And the question, the practice then is like, how can I open my heart and trust again when I've been hurt so many times? And it's really, really hard and it hurts. It will feel vulnerable, terrifying, and it's just scary, like being on the edge of a cliff. And it often hurts, but it's like, can we open our hearts when we're hurting and love our partner? Yeah. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think a woman really needs to look at herself if she finds herself choosing men that she doesn't trust. It's like, what are you choosing? Because I think oftentimes women choose men they don't trust in order to continue playing out a pattern.
Yeah, it validates the belief that men aren't trustable.
And gives a woman kind of a validation around staying in a controlling mode, which then just ends up creating more hurt for both people. Yeah. Tanya says, yes, I love that share. Thank you, Rod. Tanya, okay, so we'll have this one be the last question for tonight. So Tanya says, thank you, I love this conversation. How can a woman love her husband's resistance to personal development, to cultivate more presence, etc., because he's suffering from stress and burnout? My husband resists my promptings to really make his health a priority so that more intimacy can be cultivated with more vitality. I raise my hand. I'm more in my masculine and tend to lead because I've worked so much on my sexuality.
All right. There's a big difference between personal development and like what we're talking about here, about cultivating intimacy in a relationship. A woman can very, very, very quickly inspire a man into being interested in the development of the relationship and the intimacy. And if he's suffering from stress and burnout, it sounds like his capacity to receive doesn't sound like it's present, like as in he's not knowing how to receive love, to be nourished by the feminine, which is one of the most beautiful gifts. Like a woman can be so energizing and vitalizing to a man, and that nourishment is something that will inspire him to want to participate in this kind of workshops. And if you've been doing work in the sexuality space and you feel that love for him, then start to show him the benefits that you've cultivated through what you've learned. And if you keep showing him that and showing up to the relationship and the intimacy, and there'll be a sense that you're growing and getting bigger and full of more love and bringing it to the relationship, that will either inspire and evoke from him those qualities that you want and his interest in this work, or the gap in the relationship will get bigger. And for me, it's really important to never have an outcome set for a relationship, like how do we get this back together, or it's like more about how do you live in alignment and become the woman that you're longing to be, and bring that to the relationship. And if you can, I'm losing track of myself, if you can do that, that's what's going to fulfill you. And so whether the relationship stays or goes will become less and less important as you align your life to the living of what it is that you're cultivating and sharing with him in the relationship.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you have more on that?
The only thing I would add is that, because Tanya's acknowledged that she's more in her masculine, then Tanya's focus needs to be on living from the feminine, so that becomes the inspiration that Rod was referring to. It's like be the inspiring feminine, and either the relationship grows or the relationship
falls away.
Yeah.
And if you are like, there's nothing wrong with you being in your masculine and leading, like if that's what you're doing throughout the day. But if you don't want that in your intimacy, then there's two things that you can do. One, cultivate a really strong feminine practice, which is really, really, I would suggest that for any woman, the same as that masculine practice for men. And well, actually, feminine practices for men as well, and masculine practices for women, depending on where you are and what you specifically need to cultivate for your relationship and your situation. But if you are bringing that masculine quality to the relationship, I don't know exactly what you know or where you've studied or trained, but stop bringing that. Choose to bring that feminine quality, and do it in really simple ways, in really simple spaces. Like if he says, which way do you think we should go in the car? It's like, oh, I don't know. It's like, let go of directing, let go of leading. Say, I don't know. What do you think? Where do you think we should go? How do you think we should get there? So you start directing the leadership quality back to him. And in a way, you're actually leading him by inviting. I call it a feminine style of leadership. It's leading with vulnerability by creating invitations. And so you're creating an invitation for a man to lead you. So, and in lots of ways, you're leading him. It's a very, very powerful way to lead. And I think the world needs more of it from men and women. But create that invitation for him to step into. And he'll start to do it naturally. He doesn't even have to do a workshop. You could lead him straight through all this sort of stuff if you really wanted to, just by creating opportunities for him to step into. And your love animation that you bring to the relationship, that will start to nourish and nurture him and inspire him to become more accountable in the relationship. It'll bring more value to the relationship. It'll mean more to him. And when it means more to him, it's going to become more important very, very quickly.
Yeah, beautiful. So we're going to start winding up now. Andy says, blessings to you both Emina. Thanks for great conversation and wonderful insights. Tanya says, yes, that's true. I'm not sure to which bit. Yes, I have deep love and keep showing up. Thank you. Tanya also says, yes, I've been cultivating a daily feeling feminine practice. Love this new practice of creating invitations for him to lead. Love that. Helen says, great distinction, Rod, but again, I'm not sure which bit she's talking about.
That's okay. I'm grateful. Thank you. Cherry.
Tanya says, thank you again. Sherry says, after 30 years of accumulating evidence as to why I can't trust men, I have been rewriting the program over the past 2 years through Martina's work, and I find I have enough space now to witness the old radar in my mind scrutinizing and criticizing, but I'm absolutely loving the journey of opening to the belief that I can trust my man because I'm collecting evidence daily that he is trustworthy. I can see through both lenses at the moment, and I'm very relieved to be stepping into trusting my beautiful partner. He's the same person making the same choices and actions, but I see that in each circumstances I could respond in two very different ways, trust or not trust, which creates two very different outcomes. I love the feeling of being able to trust. I love what it has created in our relationship. Thank you both.
That is a beautiful share, and thank you for your vulnerability. And that's perfect. That's a perfect note to end on. But just in what Sherry said, like, she's totally nailed it there. And when a woman trusts a man, there's a huge responsibility that comes with that, and it's immediately like the sense, like, I have a wicked sense of humor, and I love to play tricks on Martina. And if I'm at one that's a little bit edgy, she'll just go, I trust you, babe. And it's like, oh, fuck. Like, there goes my trick, whatever I was going to do. Because the trust that she's offering me inspires me to step up and be my best. It's a very powerful invitation to a man to be the best version of himself, is that trust. So thank you. Great share, Sherry.
And with us, something edgy looks like him trying to steal my dessert, and I'll feel it coming, which is when I typically go, I trust you.
So disappointing. I love her desserts. I'm not really 47, Sherry. I just saw your comment. Okay, I am. I lied again.
Glenn says, inspiring. Tanya says, blessings to you both. Sherry says, you've nailed it. As always, Rod, thanks for tonight. From Sherry and Paul.
Thank you, Sherry and Paul. I wish I was up there in Byron with you guys.
Gail says, invaluable. Love all of this. Thank you. Tanya says, look forward to you both coming to the UK to do a couples retreat workshop, the 5-day one you do in Australia. Awesome. We'll come to the UK and do it, Tanya. If you want to line up some people for us, that would be wonderful. Wonderful. Andy loves your words, Sherry. And I'm really touched by Sherry's share as well. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And Yael says, thanks, Rod. Super helpful to hear your insights.
Oh, is that Yael from the couples retreat?
Yeah.
Oh, how you going? Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
And Kath says, great sharings tonight. Thanks, Rod and Martina. And Georgia says, thank you both. You're so generous with your hearts.
Oh,
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you all so much. Before we finish up, just a couple of little things. One is date night with Martina will be Wednesday night next week. I don't have a topic for it yet, but if you have something you'd love to hear me talk about, then send me a message and let me know. Also, date night for singles will be coming up again on the 27th of June. So for the singles wanting to meet somebody, date night for singles is lots of fun and a great way to meet new people. Join me online for that. You can book in at the Tantric Blossoming website.
Thank you, Danny.
And also our level 1 events. So the men who are on here tonight, who would love to learn more from Rod, our Relationship Tools for Men Level 1 is coming up July 4th and 5th. So it's just a month away. That'll be with both of us and a really perfect opportunity to develop more presence, to come into understanding your own masculine trustability in another way. And then the women's level 1 Blossoming Woman is also on in July. So that's all on the website. But I just wanted to, mention those things because it's beautiful to have these conversations, and what our workshops offer you is a chance to really practice, embody, and have specific tools for making the changes in your life. So, thank you so much to everyone who's here. And I look forward to seeing you all online again soon. Good night.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your presence, and thank you for your beautiful questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.